Given the function f of x is equals to 3 minus x over x plus 4, determine f inverse of 0 and f inverse of negative a half. Now solution, how do we determine the inverse of a function? So the first step to determine the inverse of a function, we transpose, isn't it? So here we have f of x equals to 3 minus x over 2 over x plus 4, isn't it? So where there is f of x, you say what? Let y be a function of x, isn't it? Let y be a function of x. So that where there is a function of x, we put y, isn't it? So if y is a function of x, then it means the position function of x occupying we substitute with y. So it means y is equals to 3 minus x over x plus 4, because y is the function of x, isn't it? So the first step, we transpose for x, meaning we make x the subject of the formula, isn't it? So we multiply both sides by what is in the denominator, isn't it? Meaning we multiply both sides by x plus 4 to get rid of the denominator. So x plus 4 cancels out with x plus 4, isn't it? Are we together? Yes. Then now here, y, multiply all the terms inside the bracket, y times x, xy. Then plus y times 4, 4y is equals to, the other side we remain with 3 minus x, isn't it? Yes. Then on the left hand side of the equation, only terms with x, because we are transposing for x. To put terms with x on the left hand side of the equation, and any term without x goes on the other side, isn't it? So here, xy remains because it has x, isn't it? Then negative x on the other side of the equation coming on the left hand side of the equation become positive x is equals to, the other side of the equation we remain with 3, positive 4y going the other side, negative 4y. So you've collected the terms with x on the left hand side of the equation, isn't it? So you can now factorize x outside a common factor, isn't it? So if you factorize x outside, you have x into y plus 1, because the coefficient of x is 1, isn't it? Is equals to 3 minus 4y. So for you to get x, you divide by its coefficient, which is y plus 1. So if you divide by y plus 1, divide both sides of the equation by y plus 1, you get y plus 1 goes with y plus 1, you remain with x is equals to 3 minus 4y over y plus 1, isn't it? Then you go to step 2. Step 2, you interchange. So can you now interchange? Where there is x, you put y. So we are going to have, if you interchange the variable position occupying by x, you put y, position occupying by y, you put x, isn't it? So we are going to have y is equals to 3 minus 4x, isn't it? Yes. Over x plus 1. So after interchange, meaning the y you found is now the inverse function of y, isn't it? And how do we denote an inverse function of y? It was in terms of x. So the inverse function of y will be f inverse of x, isn't it? Yes. Are you together? Yes. So we found y to be equal to this, meaning this is the inverse function of, y, which is f inverse of x, in that our variables are in terms of x, isn't it? Yes. So f inverse of x is what? 3 minus 4x over x plus 1. Then Roman number 1, you've been told to determine the f inverse of 0, yes. So f inverse of 0, where there is x, you put? Yes. So f inverse of 0, where there is x, you put 0. So we are going to have 3 minus f inverse of 0 to be 3 minus 4 into 0 all over 0 plus 1, isn't it? So what do you get in the numerator? You get 3, isn't it? Then in the denominator, 0 plus 1. So at the end, f inverse of 0 is 3, and you are done with that, isn't it? Then you move to the second one. They want f inverse of negative a half, meaning the position x is occupying, negative half is occupying, isn't it? So you substitute x with the negative a half. So we are going to have f inverse of negative a half to be 3 minus 4 into the value of x, which is negative a half. We are done with the numerator. Then denominator we have x plus 1, isn't it? Which is negative a half plus 1, isn't it? Are we together? So what do you get in the numerator? 3 plus 2, isn't it? Negative into negative is positive, isn't it? Then 4 times a half is 2. Over negative half plus 1 It's just a half, isn't it? So we have 5 over half. So what is 5 over half? 10, isn't it? So if you work out that, you get 10, meaning the F inverse of negative a half is 10. And that is the end of that example. So that is how to get the inverse of any function. It only involves the two steps, isn't it? You transpose, then you interchange. Then after interchanging, it now becomes the inverse function, isn't it? Good.